Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew. I have some very exciting news to share with you today, and I'll be getting to that in just a few minutes, so you're going to want to stick around for that. Listen, the election is, if you're watching this show, the election is, well, probably right now, unless you're a social media viewer and you get the show a few days earlier than everybody else. So before I get into my main topic, I want to spend the first 10 minutes of the program and talk about some of my election predictions for this election cycle. So let's begin. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I really do think Donald Trump will win, and he will win convincingly. But that doesn't mean that the progressive left won't have a meltdown. Just as in 2016, when Trump was first elected president, the media will be dismayed. The Democrats will be, just shocked, and there will be protests in the streets, possibly violent. I hope not, but possibly violent. Congressional Democrats, such as Jamie Raskin, will try to prevent Trump from being sworn in by declaring him an insurrectionist. Polling within the last year shows that less than 1/3 of Republicans believe Biden is the legitimate president, and 36% of all Americans have doubts about the 2020 election. That is only a feeling, not a fact. But feelings decide presidential elections, and the almost gleeful anti-American thrust of Biden's presidency has given more than 60% of potential voters a feeling that we are on the wrong track as a nation. Already, 5 battleground AGs are saying it will be 24 to 48 hours until all ballots are counted. Expect a surprise. The left, think about it. If you're in their position, the left has nothing to lose. And if you have nothing to lose, but everything to gain, then you need to be expecting a power play. For the liberals, the ends justify the means. They didn't come this far and accomplish so much just to bail out at the end. Do I expect a massive surprise in the next few days, in the next week? An attack on our nation? No, I do not. Would I be surprised? Absolutely not. What I would expect is that the Democrats have something hidden. Something on Trump, whether real or not, that could be so alarming, the allegations themselves so horrible that it could change how people vote the last minute. If this was released, let's say on November 1st, a Friday, it would give America the weekend before it's addressed like it should be. That's a common tactic, is you drop an absolute bombshell on a Friday whenever the news networks, the main hosts are leaving for the weekend. And even if they know it's false, they have a couple of days before the rumors and the feelings are solidified, right? But that is too late with the election on Tuesday, November 5th. Okay, listen. Before I go into a very pressing issue, I'm going to first talk about the election a little bit more, and then an unbelievably pressing issue that I have found that most people have no idea is even taking place. But first, I want you to consider donating this week to the ministry. We are now entering into our year-end fundraiser, the most important fundraiser that we have in a calendar year that will support what we do for the year of 2025. And I want to share something with you. Something really great happened this week. And I pray, and please agree with me in prayer that God will use it greatly. You've heard me talk about our friend of the ministry, Mark Eskinder, whose practice is in Beverly Hills, 90210. Well, he is giving a $10,000 matching fund to kickstart this fundraiser. Okay, I'm so grateful. Listen, he gave me a call a few weeks ago and said, I'm coming to Decatur, Illinois. We had never met in person. And it was a really great couple of days, you know, here in soybean capital of the world. We took an evening where we actually dined with the Amish. We did a tour of an old mansion that my parents actually renovated about 15 years ago. And we had lots of great conversation. Actually, here's a picture of Mark and I doing a tour, what is now known as the Staley Museum, a home that my parents renovated many years ago. That's him and I at the base of the stairway. We had lots of great conversation. And listen, he has been so involved in giving these last few years, and he understands the situation that we are in. And we need your help. We need your help. If we can maintain our current monthly donors, the people that give on a recurring basis, we need to raise an additional $60,000 to continue over this next year. And the first 10,000 are going to be matched. Get involved today, right now. And if you give, whether online or through the mail, make sure in that memo section you let me know. This is not a recurring donation. This one is to go towards the matching funds that Mark Eskinder has given. And I want to let you know, it's like $60,000. That's a lot. Well, actually, it's actually really not a lot compared to most television ministries, but it is a lot for us. And so what are our goals? First, the biggest one is to remain on television. We are in millions of homes through the nation on Comcast cable, as well as many places in actually South America. That is what the chunk of this $60,000 is going to go towards. We are trying to raise the funds before the year starts that will be going to editing all of the programs in 2025. Also, all of our web developers' fees are due at the beginning of the year. We need donations to pay for closed captioning. All right, that is a legal requirement for any syndicated television program. And I would like to set aside our anticipated accounting fees for the year of 2025. And the first $10,000 will be matched. If you give $5,000 or $5, anything you give will be instantly doubled by our dear friend Mark Eskinder through the Alice J. Hamilton Charitable Trust. Get involved today. Just go to ZachDrewShow.com and click that bright orange donate button. If you are fed from this ministry, donate into this good soil. Or you can write us at Zach Drew Show, P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois, 62525. Remember, put on your checks, memo that this is for the matching fund, and all donations received are also tax deductions, right? Because this is a tax-exempt organization. Let us get back into the first content of elections, and then we're going to go to something that you probably don't know about, is what I'm gathering. Okay, there are a few interesting conspiracy theories. I don't believe they have a great deal of merit at this point, other than being substantiated in rabbit hole chat rooms on the net. But I'm going to share a couple with you, and then I'm going to show you what I think. So here is an interesting conspiracy of what could happen after Trump wins. One, some sacrificial Democrats will come forward and confess with lots of evidence that Trump really won in 2020, which he did. We do know that. The evidence will be, indisputable, and the mainstream media will go along loudly and continually. All right. Point two, the mainstream media will claim loudly that Trump was really the legal president from 2020 through today. Biden was only a pretender, and he didn't know. And neither did Kamala. They are innocent as babies. Only a small cabal knew that Trump was really president for 2 consecutive terms. And since Trump actually won the last election and was the real president for the last 4 years, Trump is not legally allowed to serve a third term. Yes, like I said, these are conspiracies. I'm not saying that I believe them, but they're going around circulating. I'm going to tell you what I believe. Hey, he's not allowed to serve a third term, so sad, too bad, go home. And that's how Democrats keep Trump from the White House after the election. Corrupt judges, Democrat judges will enthusiastically agree. These are extreme situations, but one thing I do project is this. If Donald Trump wins, they will likely make Vice President Kamala Harris the sitting president, even if only for a month or two before Trump would be sworn in on January 20th of 2025. This will mark off, one of the boxes that the left can have, saying that we have had our first official woman president. She will do many things, though. She will, including expedite federal judges, liberal, Marxist federal judges up the wazoo. The left has firmly established that Joe Biden is not fit to be president. This was the singular reason, the singular issue why they forced him out. So if Trump wins, I believe they will invoke the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, meaning that the vice president and the majority of cabinet secretaries declare the president unable to perform his duties. And they will do as much as possible in that time to prevent Trump from doing as much as possible for the next 4 years. Let's get into the main topic of today's program. I'm going to talk about the massive global power shift taking place on a historic scale. And I'm excited to talk about this because certain things I don't talk about in the program because I just assume everybody already knows about it. So what can I add to it? And talking to several different people, I'm amazed that they're not familiar with what's taking place. Like I said, there's a global power shift taking place on a historic scale as these globalists plan for a great reset. The reset will be both cultural and financial and will end with billions of people on a technocratic cashless system. And as the West commits suicide by design, the East is quickly taking over financially with BRICs, BRICS plus, BRICs plus, taking over the entire economic system, aiming to launch a new world reserve currency to replace the dollar. And with Saudi Arabia now participating with the coalition, it's pretty obvious where this is headed. And I'm shocked to find out how many people have no idea this is even taking place. As Western banks collapse and the dollar collapses simultaneously, are your assets safe? Are you stewarding what God has given you well? The move to a cashless CBDC system with 15-minute cities, digital IDs, with social and carbon credits alongside food and electricity rations is obviously the agenda at hand. Are you prepared? Let's break this down. The 2024 BRICS Summit took place this week in Kazan, Russia, on October 22nd through the 24th. BRICS is an acronym that refers to an alliance of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's not just a collection of emerging economies. It's a bold coalition poised to challenge the Western economic dominance. Representing a significant share of the world's population and economic power, these nations are targeting the very system that has long upheld the US dollar and the elites behind it. Their mission? To enhance cooperation and redefine the global economic landscape, taking aim at the Western hegemony that they feel has manipulated and controlled for far too long. So BRICS, first Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. It now includes Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, with many other countries wanting to join, including Turkey. Saudi Arabia has been asked to join and participated in the organization's activities, being BRICS, just this last week. BRICS has announced their plans to create its own parliament to oversee the alliance and its initiatives. They are creating a new world order separate from Western financial interests. We aren't to take BRICS seriously, right? I mean, at least that's the propaganda, if you even heard it, here in the West. That's what they would have you think. Yet look who was arriving. Let's go ahead and put that video. Look who was arriving in isolated Russia for the huge BRICS summit. The leaders of the biggest economies and democracies on earth. And maybe it's time to ask, who is really isolated? Did you know that the combined GDP of the current BRICS nations is over 60 trillion? Way ahead of the G7, right? We all know the G7, which consists of the United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom. BRICS average growth rate by the end of this year is projected to be 4%, higher than the 3.2% global average. And the bulk of economic growth for the near future will come from BRICS member nations. So, BRICS represents most of the world's people, and their combined economies have already surpassed the West. This is not a joke. I believe they are going to crush the American dollar. And the Western world, you and I, sit over here believing our own propaganda. Let's go to the article. Escobar, date with destiny. BRICS offers hope in a time of war. Even before the meeting this week of finance ministers and central bank governors, the Russian finance minister was stressing that BRICS is keen to bypass politicized Western platforms, a subtle reference to the sanctions tsunami and the weaponization of the US dollar as BRICS work to create their own global majority-friendly international payment system. Not an anti-Western group, just a non-Western group. In his speech at the BRICS Business Council last Friday and in a subsequent roundtable with heads of media groups of BRICS members, President Putin, in fact, summed up all the major dossiers. Here are the highlights on the role of the Shanghai-based NDB, the BRICS Bank. Russia, quote, will expand the capabilities of the NDB. The bank should become the main investor in major technological and infrastructure projects for BRICS members and the wider global South. That makes total sense with the NDB financing infrastructure development and commercially involved with local private companies. Incidentally, the next president of the NDB will be Russian. On creating a single digital infrastructure for BRICS already on, that's huge, by the way. That is huge, that statement. Russia is working on the use of digital currencies in investment process in the interests of other developing economies. That ties up with BRICS work on their own version of SWIFT for international financial transaction. It also ties up with BRICS Pay, a debit card whose first trial run happened during the Business Council last week, not dissimilar with Alipay in China, and soon to be rolled out across BRICS member nations. A BRICS single currency. Now, it was quoted in the thing. It's not being considered yet. This issue is not ripe yet. De-dollarization, Putin stressed, is proceeding step by step. We're talking, this is from Putin. We are taking individual steps one after another. As regards finance, we do not drop the dollar. The dollar is the universal currency, but it wasn't us. We were banned and barred from using it. And now 95% of all the external trade of Russia is dominated in national currencies. That is huge, people. They did it themselves with their own hands. They thought we would collapse. So 2 quick additional points. So I'll put here, Russia has weathered the economic war unleashed by the West, despite a storm of sanctions unprecedented in world history. The losers are to be found in the West, with Germany being hit the hardest, also due to a senseless economic policy. And point two, China, which is only a few steps behind Russia in terms of sanctions, has become a target for the West because of its industrial superiority. It is the great new enemy of the US and Europe. All right, so let me break this down for you, all right, because this is huge. It's huge, and it's all connected. The Federal Reserve, it's not what many think, as you and I know. It's not a government agency like they want you to believe. No, it's not. It's a private banking cartel. And they've been pulling the strings for decades. These guys have printed trillions of dollars out of thin air, devaluing our currency and driving us deeper into debt. Oh, and by the way, who's to pay for this? It's you and me. Meanwhile, these elites are getting richer while the rest of us are watching the economy spiral out of control. They are the real enemy, okay? They are the real enemy. The global elites who control our money, control the system, and ultimately want to control you. And now, What's the next step of their plan? It's central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Okay, that's what it is. This is the ultimate power grab. They're pushing for a digital currency where they can track every single move that you make financially. Every single move. The digital currency will let them decide how and when you spend your money. And this isn't about efficiency. This is about total control. They will be able to restrict your freedom like never before. And if you don't comply, you step out of line, they can flip the switch and freeze your money. And that is why conservatives are screaming at the top of their lungs. This is why this is a threat to our freedom. This is a threat to our God-given rights and about economic liberty. Now, so what about BRICs? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all the other nations. What are they saying? They're saying we're done with the US dollar. We're done with the manipulation. And here's the thing, I don't think BRICs is the bad guy in this scenario, okay? I know China's evil, but what I'm saying is this scenario of what they're trying to do. You see, they're reacting to the unchecked power of the Federal Reserve. They see what we see, that the dollar has been weaponized for political gain. So they want to break free from the system. And if I was in their shoes, could you blame them? And honestly, it's going to play into the end times. But the thing is that they don't want to be chained to a currency that's been abused and manipulated by the elites for so long. And that's a scary thing. The scary thing, a part about this is that their moves could have devastating consequences for the dollar. Their actions may unintentionally help the elites. And that's the plot twist. That the globalists, the ones who control the Federal Reserve, they may be loving this. They want to push us towards a global digital currency, and BRICs might just be playing into their hands. The theory is if BRICS pulls away and crashes the dollar, it creates the perfect crisis. And what do the elites always say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. They could swoop in and say, oh no, the dollar's collapsed, the system's broken, but don't worry, we have a solution, a global digital currency. And bam, they've got their foot in the door to totally control everything. Total control over the global financial system. You could say it's like the ultimate bait and switch. They'll let BRICS take the blame. So while BRICS is shaking things up, don't be fooled. The real evil is right here at home, in the heart of the Federal Reserve. They're the ones plotting. They're the ones pushing this agenda. And the collapse of the dollar could just be part of their grand design to usher in a one world currency. And that's when the global totalitarian regime begins. Mark my words, this is about control, and it's time to wake up to it. This is not about the next 4 years. This is about the future of freedom in America and the world. And the vast majority of Americans have no idea. It's like a total blackout on BRICS. I'm totally convinced that they have an agreement not to talk about it. And any small little snippet that the mainstream news will talk about it, they'll dismiss it off. It's something to be taken very seriously. Gosh, I'm running out of time. Where do I go from here? I have about 4 more pages of content left. I'll go to this section. End times, so what do I do? Okay. So if you're end time minded, like I am, which I believe every believer should be right now, then you've got to be prepared. And not just spiritually, which is the ultimate foundation, but financially and practically as well. We're living in a time where everything is lining up, and the control that's coming through the Federal Reserve, through global banking elites, is part of the system that the Bible warns about. The mark of the beast, the one world government, the one world currency, it's all falling into place. So what should we be doing? A couple of quick things. I think you should explore, and I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. I almost forgot to say it. Okay. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my own opinion. I think you should explore diversifying outside the traditional systems. I think you should invest in tangible assets. Actually, I want to play a quick clip. This is Dr. Kurt Elliott, who was interviewed this week on Alex Jones's InfoWars concerning investing in tangible assets. Take a quick listen to this, and I'll be right back.
As we look at this, why not gold, right? You just had this article that was put on the screen. It's like the top 10 holders of gold on the planet. Russia is number one with 1,230 tons purchased over the last decade. Turkey is up there, right? You've got a lot of the BRICs nation. China is on this list. You look at who's not. Who's not on the list is the United Kingdom, United States, most countries in Europe. It's like, see, the Western financial system is about to implode. The BRICs nations and their system, they're adding gold to their mix like it's nobody's business. See, they want to take over and dominate the world financial picture. So as the dollar deteriorates, they're backing their currencies with gold. Gold is going to skyrocket. Silver outperforms gold in bull markets, and we, Alex, get to take advantage of that in a world where the foundations around us are eroding. You know what? Our finances don't need to with it.
Okay, I want to end the program by talking about this. I want to play another clip. It's incredibly powerful. It is about a 4 or 5 minute clip. I will be posting the link to the entire interview in the description on all social media platforms because it is worth the watch. Now, Dr. Kurt Elliott is a born-again, spirit-filled Christian. You need to watch the full interview. But before you watch this interview, it is important to note that silver at the time of they were filming it was $31.78. It's very important that you remember these numbers. When you listen to this interview, as you're listening to my talk even right now, silver is currently trading at $33.95. So it was at $31.78 whenever he was talking. It's at $33.95 an ounce right now. When you understand it's at $33.95 right now, it will make all the difference in the world as you listen to this content.
Yeah, so Alex, we've been talking about gold and silver for like a year. I mean, it's been a while, right? And since that time, we've seen silver go from like $22 an ounce 5 months ago up to about almost 32 today. It's like you look at that move, it's like, oh my word, that's over 40% in the last 5 months, right? But to me, when you look at a chart like a chart that's on the screen right now, that there's always fundamental reasons why a chart looks like a chart. And what are they? That's unsustainable debt, inflationary pressures, political chaos, wars and rumors of wars, black swan events that come up, right? And so this is what I look at, is all of the things that make the chart look like the chart. And what we've been talking about has sadly become reality. Right? I wish the stuff that we're talking about debt implosions, banks running out of money, FDIC being underinsured, supply chain disruptions, the massive demand for silver with new battery technology from Samsung, that we've addressed all of this. I wish some of this stuff would never happen, but yet it is. So we talk about it, and that's why the chart is moving up.
We're making lemonade out of lemons. You're handed a bucket of lemons, make lemonade. God gave us a brain to adapt and overcome and make the right decisions, and in these hard times, make the maneuvers that are the best move for our families.
Absolutely. You might as well take advantage of the trends so the trends don't take advantage of us, right? So here's where, as we talk this morning, silver is at $31.78. So it's real close to 32. Well, I was doing some research over the weekend, and there's 3 things that need to happen as I was doing this research for silver to really break out and talk about what we've been talking about. We can do a ratio trade in silver to compound our ounces of gold moving forward because silver's outperforming probably by the end of the year or first quarter of next. See, I'm thinking silver is going to hit $50 an ounce by the end of the year. Well, what 3 conditions need to be met for that to happen? It's a technical level. It's a chart thing. And I'm not a chartist, Alex, but when silver closes above $32.50, realize it's $31.78 right now. When it closes above $32.50, that's one of the conditions. that is a very hard resistance point. And once it does that, there is no more resistance until 50, which is like its old high. The second thing that needs to be met is don't actually track it in dollars, because a lot can happen with the dollar. Banks are running out of money. The dollar is being dismantled with the petrodollar going away. So let's measure it in euros. So when silver closes above 30 euros per ounce, that's the second condition. It's really close to that right now. And the final condition is truly a little more esoteric, right? And that is if there's this gentleman that actually wrote this article. He put together a synthetic silver price index. Basically, that talks about removing a false positive, right? So we want to make sure that this breakout isn't just a fake, right? It's just not just a head fake, but it's the real thing. His index actually shows that this actually could be the real deal. So here's where, when you look at these technical patterns, we're all about to break out. So from technically speaking, this is what we have been waiting for with silver. But I need to add one huge, massive fundamental factor to this. And this is what Putin, I didn't send you this article, Alex, I apologize, but last week Putin said, you know what we're going to do, world? We're going to add silver to our strategic reserves in Russia. Not just gold, but we're going to add silver to it. And it's like, oh my word. So they've already got like 1,000 tons of gold, tons that they've purchased over the last decade, making them the largest purchaser of gold on the planet over the last decade. Now what Putin wants to do is add silver to the mix. Why? Because of international sanctions placed on the ruble. He wants to stick it to the West. He wants to stick it to the Western banks. And he knows if he adds silver to it, the supply of silver will go away. There's not enough silver to start backing a currency. And this is what he wants to do. So silver supply diminishes, prices go through the ceiling. The forecast, just from that one event alone, would cause silver to go to $50 an ounce. But everything else that we're talking about with new battery technology and debt and unsustainability, supply chain disruptions, will cause silver to go to 50. So you add both of these things together, it's like, oh my goodness, that silver could absolutely soar and skyrocket before the end of the year.
I'm out of time. I want to simply say really quickly, I think food and water storage are incredibly important. I think building a community is incredibly important. And above all, stay close to the Lord. We need to stay in prayer, stay in our scriptures. None of this preparation matters if we're not spiritually ready for what's coming. And we need to discern the times and listen for God's direction in every area of our lives. I am out of time on today's program. If you missed the top of the program, a miracle took place. Our friend Mark Eskinder, to kick off our year of end fundraiser, is giving a matching gift of $10,000 through the Alice J. Hamilton Charitable Trust. We've got to raise $60,000 of additional funds to make it through 2025, and that's counting on our recurring giving staying the same. Every dollar you give right now will be matched up to the first 10,000. Get involved. Write us at ZachDrewShow.com, visit ZachDrewShow.com, click the bright orange donate button, or write us at Zach Drew Show, P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois 62525. And when you give in that memo, make sure you put that this is for the matching donations. I love you guys, and we'll see you next week.